And welcome to the FCT brief. Now, today we turn our attention to the ongoing debate on Nigeria's constitutional review as the clamor for state creation and other key reforms continue to dominate our national discourse. The calls for restructuring Nigeria's federal system have once again gained momentum, with various interest groups, traditional rulers, and political stakeholders demanding the creation of new states, devolution of power, and other constitutional amendments. The Nigerian Constitution, last amended in 2018, is once again under the microscope. From the National Assembly chambers to grassroots town halls, voices demanding a comprehensive review of the country's legal and political structure have grown louder. One of the most contentious issues remains the creation of new states. Proponents argue that new states will bring governance closer to the people, ensure equitable resource distribution, and address the sense of marginalization felt by certain regions.
Beyond state creation, other demands include the devolution of powers from the federal government to the states, fiscal federalism, local government autonomy, and electoral reforms aimed at strengthening democratic institutions. While some lawmakers support these proposals, others warn that creating additional states could increase administrative costs and strain the nation's already challenged economy. As public hearings continue, Nigerians await whether this latest round of constitution review will lead to tangible reforms or remain another exercise in political rhetoric. The debate over Nigeria's constitutional framework is far from over, with calls for inclusivity and equitable governance. All eyes remain on the National Assembly and the outcome of the review process. For more on the Constitution review, let's bring in a lawyer, Libros Oshoma, and he joins us live via Zoom. All right, he will join us much later. But Oshomomo, looking at the Constitution review process and now calls for creation of states, how relevant do you think this is to Nigeria's problems? And, you know, do you think this will solve Nigeria's problem? And do you think this is actually what Nigerians really want, or is just a political hustle?
For me, I think this is actually working against the mood of the nation. Because we just remember, I think recently the National Assembly passed a bill where we had the Regional Development Commission. And a lot of people were saying that, okay, probably it's positive, we're gradually moving towards regional stuff. And now you're now talking about states. You can't be on one end, you're creating regional development commissions to ensure that, look, regions come together. And the other end, you're balkanizing, I call it balkanizing states, creating more states. Now, do we even have the funds?
I think it's a case of double standards for me, because you calling for the creation of state, that will mean more lawmakers, more governance, and we're talking about
more local governments.
More local government. Now we're talking about lack of resources. How do you know that will overstretch the already scarce resources that Nigerians have? But I hear now that we have our guest online now. Good morning, Mr. Libros Oshoma. It's good to have you on TVC Breakfast this morning. Mr. Oshoma. All right.
Yeah.
Before we clear up the connection issues there.
Yeah, I was talking about working against purpose. For me, I don't think the 36 states is just too much for us. If we have a way of reducing or let's go regional system. Because we have to look at the bureaucracy, how much we spend on overhead. If you have more states, you're going to create more local governments. You'll create offices. You're going to employ more people. And the current ones employed in the various states, you've not been able to pay them the 70,000. You are talking about creating additional states. Now, who advises people that is what we need now?
I think, is it more about the people that advise them or their own personal interest? Because it's a case of interest here, if you ask me. There are some politicians who feel that if these states are created, of course, it will be easier for them to get some certain kind of positions. You understand? But in everything, I believe that everyone should think about the interests of Nigerians first. Because if we are calling that, okay, these resources that would go to the creation of the states? What if it's invested back in the people? What if it's invested back in the system? That would go really a long way. We shouldn't be speaking from both sides of our mouth.
And I think if they don't know what to do, they can also think about how to reduce the number of representation we have. Do we need two bicameral systems?
That is one topic that
they will discuss that. Do we need bicameral system? Because the various states, you have legislatures in the state, you now come to the federal, you have the Senate, you have the House of Reps. Do we really need bicameral legislation? I hope one day there will summon the courage to look at it and see if they can legislate themselves out.
It now depends on if our democracy is matured enough to handle that.
Like somebody said, probably a revolution will help us do it someday.
Exactly. Well, let's check on Mr. Oshoma. Do we have you right now, Mr. Oshoma? All right, I think we're still trying to establish. All right. Well, there's also fresh calls now for the whole constitution to be redone all over again. Exactly. It's not just about reviewing this existing 1999 constitution, but it calls for a new constitution. Do you think that is necessary? Yeah,
it's necessary because if you look at the preamble to this constitution, it will say, we, the people, have decided. We did not decide. There was no time we sat together and decided and said, this is the constitution by which we should be governed. It was a military, some people call it a military contraption. They brought it and they decreed it. So it is not we. You should have said, we, the military, have decided to give you this. But if we really want a constitution that is ours, we have to sit down and agree. And that is why people say, okay, whether you talk about ethnic nationalities, whether you talk about social groups, whether you talk about corporate groups, we all have to sit down and say, look, how do we want it? Is it the parliamentary system we want? Is it the presidential system? Is it the strong center or weak center? Is it the regional system we want? We must have a way that we work around it. Is it more power to our traditional rulers beyond what it presently is? Is it state police, give police the power? Do we need one Supreme Court, for instance? Do we need all the states to have their own Supreme Court, or the various regions have a Supreme Court? And you see, those are the things that are germane, and those are the things I think the National Assembly should always concentrate on. But you see, there is always a budget for constitutional amendments. And whether it is done well or not, you will always see every National Assembly will do it because that money must be spent. And I think it's just all about spending the money. It's not because they really want to give something to the people. It's because that money must be spent.
Again, with all these things that you've mentioned, how involved are the people that we're even talking about? Because you're talking about constitutional review. How many Nigerians actually make it to that public hearing? We have the constitutional review process ongoing now. A lot of people don't even know that such a thing is happening. We hear that some announcements were made. How far-reaching are those announcements? How far-reaching? Do we have that town crier effect in the states, in the regional level, and at the grassroots level? How many people know that, okay, this is what is expected of me when, this kind of process is ongoing? Those questions are still begging for answers.
I hope when this amendment is done, also, they will put in a clause there where you talk about a referendum. We must always learn to go back to the people in a referendum where the people will vote yes or no. So whatever you guys have put together in the National Assembly, you've taken to the various states, it must be voted by the people in a yes or no.
And also there must be transparency and accountability.
Exactly. So that is the only way the people will respect the document. But you see, a document that the people did not participate in the development, there is no way they will respect, because they will see that document as being your document against us. And if we want it to be our constitution, the people must participate, and also there must be the space for a referendum where we vote yes or no. This is what we want, and that is it.
Well, let's check on our guests. Mr. Oshoma, do we have you? All right, let's go on a quick break. When we return, we'll return with more. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We seem to be having technology this morning again playing out. But, this whole constitutional review process, I just wish that it will go, the way Nigerians want it, and all voices are heard, because everybody deserves a piece of, it's our country. We have a right of say in everything that goes on in that constitution. And I just pray that, these leaders realize this and ensure that everyone is involved in the process.
Yeah. I know there's a group also that's working on a constitutional review called the Patriots, and I remember I saw a clip by some persons from the North also.
Those are the ones that are working on the creation of a new constitution.
And they're telling them, look, you need the participation. I think the man from the North was telling them that, look, you need the participation of people from the North. Now, who are those people representing the North? Because it's not just about just saying that we have representation from the North. Who are the people who elected those people?
Let's hear Mr. Oshoma.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear this morning. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
Well, there are already over 40 requests for new states in the ongoing constitution review. Do you think this truly reflects what the everyday Nigerians really want, or this is just politicians, making their own demands? And do you think that this will also solve the current issues that Nigerians have?
Look, first and foremost, happy birthday once again to Eshemomo.
Thank you very much.
Look, we keep deluding ourselves. Every 4 years, we come up with this jamboree called constitutional amendments. And then because some politicians want to satisfy their whims and caprices, and then they distract the people by coming up with this jamboree of constitutional amendment or whatever you want to call it. And then people will throw in requests for state creation. If you read copiously, for time, I won't be able to read all. If you read copiously the provisions of Section 8 of our Constitution, you'll find out that it's a practical impossibility to create states at this stage. And then, rather than, sit back, discuss the unity of Nigeria, whether we want to remain together, and if we want to remain together, how we want to remain together. We are a nation, we are a country of many nations. I give you instances. Go to Europe. You remember the case of Bosnia, Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia is a country with 6 different ethnic groups. Today, they've divided into 6 countries. Bosnia, Slovakia, and all of that. The same thing with Czechoslovakia. Not to talk of the USSR. You cannot operate a feeding bottle system of government in Nigeria where everybody goes to Abuja every month to collect a slice of the cake, like the cake that Shomamo is sharing this morning. And then you expect and you micromanage the entire entity called Nigeria, and you expect that we're going to get it right. It is a practical impossibility. So there is no need deluding ourselves that Nigeria, we amend the constitution, create state policing. For as long, if you like, amend the constitution to make my village better a state, people will still be demanding for state creation. Because the moment you start to micromanage, everybody will always feel, some persons will always feel shortchanged. Why don't you allow the entity some form of autonomy, independence? So revenue is generated from these entities, and then they pay taxes to the state and then to the center. That way, nobody's feeling shortchanged. Nobody will agitate for state. Everybody will feel that they have to work to be able to pay salaries, to fend for their state. But this idea of going to Abuja, collect all the revenue, and then the federal is what is funding the state rather than the state funding the federal, people are always going to agitate for state. I can tell you that this idea is dead on arrival. This state creation thing is dead on arrival. It's just a distraction.
All right. Mr. Oshoma, earlier you said about every 4 years they come with this jamboree. And my question also is that, why is it that we always work at cross purpose? On the side of the National Assembly, there is this continuous constitutional amendment because money is voted for in the annual budget for that exercise. And also we have a group, the Patriots, also talking about constitution, rewriting the entire constitution. Now, why is it difficult for whether it is the National Assembly to work with this group or this group to work with the National Assembly? And do you think by the time we come in from all sides, everybody's talking about constitution, their different ideas, can we ever move forward to get something tangible? Because at the end of the day, whether it is states, whether it's electoral reforms, something has to shift in the present constitution.
Sorry, Shlomo, let me tell you, you see the challenge that we have as a people, like I said, we're a country of different nations, and then with a different ethnic orientation, cultural background, religion, and, political orientation also. So you find out that there are some persons who believe that the leadership of the country is, their birthright. And then you also have a situation where certain people believe because they have landmass and then they should have, while others believe that, look, we have more population. So all of these issues. And then elections to the National Assembly, it's on rent taking. It is not on competence. And so people get there. Let me give you an instance. For example, I have 1 vote. My driver has 1 vote. My cook has 1 vote. My staff has 1 vote. If at the end of the day I decide to conduct an election today, they can outvote me. So what do? Rather than voting, I will influence 30 drivers, 50 cooks, and 70 workers to go in a particular direction. And at the end of the day, we say majority carries the day in democracy. So the person gets to the National Assembly. What is he going there to do? Nobody asks questions. He gets there, the first thing he's thinking of is how to get a new car, is how to get new accommodation, how to elevate his status. He's not thinking about how do I make life better, because what actually took him there in the first place was not about better life. And he's so distant, so far from the people that he doesn't feel their pulse. And so when the rot becomes too much, the tendency for people to rise up and say, you know what, we need to move beyond this will be there. That's why the Patriots today have decided to say, you know what, let us kickstart this discussion again. It's a discussion that has been a recurrent discussion right from 1999. Before 1999, you remember, people said we need a sovereign national conference. There's need for us to come together and discuss these things that they said we shouldn't discuss. Obasanjo stylishly wanted a 10-year elongation. He brought constitutional amendments. And then that also failed. Subsequently, Jonathan came. All through his tenure, he didn't discuss a constitutional conference. The moment there was heat on him to remove him from office, he brought in a constitutional conference. Let us sit down and discuss. And then the APC that subsequently took over, even though they had always been, advocates of constitutional sovereign national conference, they suddenly abandoned that discussion because our brothers from the north are not seeing the potentials that they have inherent in their soil. Rather, they are seeing the money coming from government only. And that's why people will tell you that when you have a glutton in the family, he insists that you eat together because he knows he will eat more. We are breeding lazy states, lazy lawmakers. And because of our population is skewed towards the north. So the belief is that our northern brothers and sisters will not accept whatever proposal is coming from the south to actually allow us discuss our unity because of political gains. So that's why the National Assembly and the Patriot can never work together. And if you see the voices, the reason of the voices from the north, voices of reason, also in line and in tandem with the fact that we need to discuss. Go back. Yesterday I was reading history. Amdala Hotel, built in Kaduna in the 60s by Sir Ahmadu Bello, was built from groundnut funds. Ahmadu Bello governance, he didn't have to bother about the entire Nigeria because his constituents was the North and how to liberate the average Northerner. And he did so much that today that we have so many states, the governors cannot replicate what he did for the entire North. Same thing for Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe in the East. Same thing for Chief Obafemi Awolowo in the West. Same thing for the likes of Chief Anthony Nahoro and others But today, because all we think about is rent taking, selfishness, and we look for low-hanging, what do you call it? I won't call them fruits because they are not fruits. Low-hanging obstacles to dangle before the electorate once election is approaching, and then, hoping that, that will fetch them, another tenure in government. What we're basically doing is postponing the evil days, because they say when two incompatible meet, they can coexist if only they agree to agree and agree to disagree. Why are we so afraid to sit down to either agree to agree or agree to disagree? And we think it is by creating states or by creating state policing. The state has already constituted and not even viable because the revenue is coming from the federal and not from the state.
Well,
look at the oil in the Niger
points
Delta.
You've mentioned there, Mr.
Sorry, quickly.
All right, because we're running out of time.
The oil from the Niger Delta is the oil from the Niger Delta is a national asset, but the gold from Zamfara is a personal asset. So people certainly will be angry. There's a lot of lead in the north. There's a lot of resources in the north, but because the politicians are not seeing it.
Well, Mr. Shoma, they're mentioning very valid points.
Exactly.
The willingness of these two sides to collaborate, the politicians having their own selfish interests, and that's overriding that of the people. I think there's a point where all this needs to come together for the overall interest of the Nigerians. I think that is what Mr. Shoma is trying to establish.
And for me, I think there's an erroneous belief that because you are an elected member of the National Assembly, you speak for the people. You speak for the people, they elected you, but there is a time also that the people must speak and you listen to them speak.
All right, Mr. Shoma. Mr. Shoma,
yes,
we keep hearing about the need for restructuring Nigeria and giving regions more control over their resources. But why does it seem that the political class, especially at the center, avoid this conversation? What are they afraid of exactly?
What they are afraid of is the rent that they are collecting in Abuja. I want to ask you, where else do people wake up every Monday morning? Go to the airport in Lagos today. All the flights to Abuja are fully booked. Everybody's rushing to Abuja. On Friday, they are rushing back. To do what? Because that is the only place you can collect big rents. So people who are beneficiaries of that rent collecting will not want anything that will take away the food from their table. That's why those are the center. When you are the state, you can preach about, oh, look, let the regions be autonomous. But the moment you get to the center and you look at the enormity of the rent that is therein, you wouldn't want to lose it. Look at, go to America, the America that we are so quick to run to. America, the local government takes care of the basic things that our federal government is taking care of here. The local government takes care of the airports, the seaports, road construction, street lights, even internal security for the local government. You have, apart from the state policing, you also have this local government marshals, because this governance and insecurity is local. So it is the local government that understands these basic problems. Because also the revenue is collected from the local government, taxes is paid to the local government, and then they pay a revenue to the state, and then the state taxes also are collected. But here, the local government have been turned to salary-paying agencies by the people in Abuja. And we think when we say we are sending allocation to them directly, then it should be something that is worth celebrating. When you are sending allocation to them directly, it's like giving a man a goat and still holding on to the rope. Okay. And then the state governors determine who becomes local government chairman. So they will not want to release or allow the autonomy at the local or state level because there is so much money to enjoy in Abuja. Right. If that is the case, all of the Senate and the House of Rep will not be
quick one, Mr. Oshoma. The president is also considering a confab for the youth. Could this also be an avenue for this discourse we're talking about? Because anyway, Nigerians must talk. And now there's a platform that, that there's going to be for the youth to be able to sit down and talk. Can we take advantage of that also?
So what the singular discussion is simple. Singular. The president as governor of Lagos State, also Fashola as governor of Lagos State, what were the panaceas they propounded to ameliorate the challenges of Nigeria? Fiscal federalism, autonomy for the regions, and then sitting down to negotiate our coexistence. That this unity of Nigeria is not negotiable. It's nebulous and should be jettisoned. So what are the youth going to be discussing? Discussing electoral reform. What is the use of electoral reforms in an entity that is, not that is skewed to favor only a few? And then these same people will be the one that you will select through electoral reforms to go to Abuja. Why is it that we keep getting it wrong? Because the system, the structure of the country is defective. When Obasanjo came, we thought we'll get it right. We didn't. His presidency could not even tar the road to Ota. Goodluck Jonathan's presidency could not tar the road to Otuoke. Not to talk of solving the floods situation. Yar'Adua's presidency could not even solve Almajiri problem in Katsina. Not to talk of the entire north. Buhari's presidency could not solve the insecurity challenges. Meanwhile, in the north, they are from this region. Because of the enormity of the problem and the sheer size of the country. Some people will draw analogy from China. The Chinese operate a provincial system where the provinces are autonomous. Even in Canada, the provinces are largely independent. Canada that we all run to. Go to Europe. In UK, you have 4 countries inside a country, and they all have independent parliaments. And at the end of the day, the Westminster controls, the security, border security for all of them. And that is why you hear of Scotland, you hear of Ireland, and you hear of, Dublin. Dublin is in Ireland. Wales.
You could just wrap up in 30 seconds. We don't have time.
Yeah. All of these are countries within countries. And because the revenue is coming from the enclaves, and it is easier for them to manage. But here, the challenge is that everybody will contribute to the purse. And what are the revenue sharing? Sometimes population, sometimes size. And that's why we'll never get the population and the size correctly. So even the youth that you're talking about, what are they going to be discussing? Discussing how they also will be politicians and break into the National Assembly. The National Assembly that is so far from the people. We say governance is local, and yet our government is foreign.
Well, very valid points you've mentioned there. We must say thank you so much for your time with us on the program. It was a delight speaking with you this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you.
Well, that's it from here in Abuja. We'll now hand you over to Lagos, where Ria Abdul and the rest of the team are standing by to continue with the rest of the show. Ria, with that resounding happy birthday that you sent, I hope a cake will follow it.
Most definitely.
You know what I mean.
Most definitely. Well, that was beautiful. What a great conversation that was had in Abuja. But now we're back in Lagos, and it's time for what's trending on social media. The girl most capable to do it, Olamide Odekole, is standing by. And I hear there's a lot trending on social media.
Good morning, Ria. You